people, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to be solving for a variable. Now, when you're solving equations, one step, two step, multiple steps, you are technically solving for a variable, but the examples that we're going to be doing today are going to be literal equations, meaning there may be numbers in these equations, but there's going to be more than one letter, and we're going to be trying to solve for a specific letter, for a specific variable. Now, disclaimer time, I am human. If I make a mistake, just let me know where the mistake occurs so that way I can learn from my mistakes. All right, beautiful people, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with example number 1. And for example number 1, we're going to do k minus a is equal to v minus w. Now, whenever you see this type of equation, you're going to see something that tells you what to solve for. Because we have more than one letter, they have to tell us what variable we're solving for. Now, whenever you have that letter, for example, we have 4a, we are solving a. This part is not part of the equation. So don't assume that you're going to be using this in the equation. This information just tells us what we are going to solve. So not part of the equation, but we are going to be solving for a. So I'm going to make sure that I have my variable in a bubble. So whatever is attached to it, remember, always take the sign that is in front of it. So I have an a. A is attached to minus, so it goes in one bubble. So now I have to do the opposite like you would in a regular one-step or two-step equation. Now, if you're in my class, we're going to do the dashed line, the dotted line, and I want to get everything over to the other side. Now, I have a k. K is positive. What is the opposite of that? It is a minus k, so I'm going to subtract k. Plus k minus k, those undo each other, so we're going to cross them out. We did not touch our minus a, so minus a remains. This here, whenever you're at this step, I'm going to say our step or rule is to read what you have. And write it down. So what do I have? I have v minus w minus k, minus k. Because there's so many letters going on, whatever you have, just read it and write it down. V minus W minus K, and we wrote that down. Now it is telling us we want A. So far we do not have A, we have a minus A, so we need to get rid of that minus. Now mathematicians are what? Lazy. If you watched any of my videos, you should know that mathematicians are lazy. So whenever we see a minus, what we really have is this. We have a negative 1 times a. That's what we really have. So again, what are we trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for a. So I need to get rid of that negative 1. So what is the opposite of what we have? Well, we have negative 1 times a. So what is the opposite of that? I'm going to divide by negative 1. And again, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Just to keep things lined up, I'm going to rewrite this one more time. And then I'm going to divide by negative 1. Now you are dividing all of that by negative 1. So now on the left-hand side, we're left with a, and on the right-hand side, we're left with what? Here's a trick, you guys. Whenever you are solving and you get something like this, you're just going to change all of the signs that you have. For example, v is positive. We're going to change all of the numbers in front of it because of this negative 1. So v is positive, we're going to change that to a minus. W is negative, we're going to change that to a plus. K is negative, we're going to change that to a plus. Whoa, that should have been a K. And that's it. Our objective was to solve for A. Do I have A by itself? Yes, that means that is my final answer. And you're moving on to example number 2. Again, objective is to get that letter by itself. Let's do a thinking bubble and write that down. Our objective is get the indicated letter by itself. We want it alone. So move everything else, get rid of everything else. All right, let's go ahead and do one more example. So example number 2. We're going to say xc is equal to d over r. And what are we trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for x. Again, this part is not in the equation. However, it does tell us information that we need. It tells us that we want x. So I'm going to put a circle around x. First question is, how is x and c? How are they grouped together? Again, mathematicians are what? Lazy. So when we have two things next to each other and they are not given a symbol in between, this means x times c. Make sure you have your dotted line so you don't do the same step on the same side. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the d divided by r just to keep everything lined up. Again, what are we trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for x. What do I need to get rid of? X is attached to c. I need to get rid of c. What is the opposite of times c? The opposite of times c is divided by c. All right, c on top, c on the bottom cancels out. Now on this side, remember how we divided by c? I got to divide by c as well. So what do I have left over here? I have x left over. What do I have here? I have d divided by r divided by c. Now here's where there's another thinking bubble, because when you have a fraction over a fraction like this, so d divided by r divided by c is the same thing as saying d divided by r times 1 over c. That's the same thing. So what I really have is d divided by r times c. I'm going to write that down. So I have x is equal to d divided by r times c. And that's it for that one. It's asking us to solve for x. Did we solve for x? Yes. Is x by itself? Yes. On this side, x is by itself. So we are done. Let's do a few more examples because this is difficult in my opinion. All right, example number 3. So g is equal to a, b divided by c, and we want to solve for a. All right, again, where is the variable that we want to solve? Here it is. Okay, now this one's a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. We can figure it out together. So what do I have? I'm going to read it. I have a times b divided by c. So I'm going to rewrite that. G is equal to a times b divided by c. In order to get to my numerator, in order to get to a being on top, I have to get rid of the denominator. Okay, I have to get rid of that c first. So a times b divided by c. So what is the opposite of that? Divided by c, the opposite of that is multiplied by c. So I'm going to times c both sides. C is crossed out. Again, what do I have on this side? I have c times g. We just read it. We don't simplify. I mean, we do simplify if we can, but because these are just letters, we can't simplify. Okay, what do I have left over? I have a times b left over. What do we want to keep? We want to keep a. That is what we are solving for. How do we get rid of times b? What is the opposite of times b? And that is divided by b. So I'm going to divide by b. So then again, b on top, b on the bottom, that goes away. So I have a is equal to c times g divided by b. Our objective for this one was to solve for a. Did I solve for a? Did I get a by itself? Yes, a is alone. Therefore, we are done. All right, let's try another one. G is equal to cx minus y, and we want to solve for x. Okay, dotted line. Where is the variable that we want to solve? It is here. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to say what we have and rewrite it. I have g equals c times x minus y. And again, we are doing reverse PEMDAS, so we do addition, subtraction first now. So I have a minus y. Oops, almost forgot to circle my variable. I have a times and I have a minus. We want to get rid of that minus first because it's easier. So what is the opposite of minus y? We're going to add y to both sides. Y minus y plus, that goes away. Again, on this side here, we're just going to read it. This is g plus y. So I'm going to write that, g plus y. Did I touch c? Did I touch x? No. So I'm going to bring both of them down, and that's c times x. What is my objective? My objective is to get x by itself. Is x by itself? No, x is not by itself. We got to get rid of the c times. So what is the opposite of c times? And that is divided by. So we're going to divide by c, both sides. C on top, c on the bottom, that goes away. So what do I have left over? I have x left over. My dotted line represents an equals. What do I have here? Just read it. What does it say? G plus y divided by c. Did we do what we're supposed to? Yes, x is by itself. Therefore, you are done. All right, beautiful people, that wraps up this video. Literal equation solving for a variable is difficult in my opinion because you rarely have numbers. And if you have numbers, you can't really do much with them because of how many letters you have in these equations. If you are struggling and you need help, definitely reach out. I am always here to help you. As always, thank you so much for watching my videos, and I'll see you in the next one.